true story by Julius. At first light, Bob Lemons rode his horse slowly up the rise. When he reached the top, he stopped at the edge of the bluff. He looked down at the corral where the other cowboys were beginning the morning chores. Then turned away and he stared at the landing stretching as wide as love in every direction. The sky was curved as if it were a lap on which the earth lay napping like a curled cat. High above, a hawk was suspended on cold threads of unseen winds, far, far away. At what looked to be the edge of the world, land and sky kissed. His guide, Warrior, his black stallion, slowly down the bluff. When he reached the bottom, the horse reared, eager to run across the vastness of the plains until he reached forever. Bob smiled and patted him gently on the neck. "Easy, easy," he whispered. "We'll have time for that, but not yet." He let the horses trot for a while, then slowed him and began peering intently at the ground as if looking for the answer to a question he scarcely understood. It was late afternoon when he saw them hoofprints of mustangs, the wild horses that lived on the plains. He stopped, dismounted, and walked around carefully until he had seen all the prints. Then he got down on his hands and knees to examine them more closely. Some people learned from books. Bob had always been a slave and never learned to read words, but he could look at the ground and read what animals had walked on it, their size and weight. Then, when he had passed by and where they were going, no one, he knew, could bring in mustangs by themselves, but Bob could make horses think he was one of them, because he was. He stood, reached into his saddlebag, took out an apple, and gave it to Warrior, who chewed it noisily. Enthusiasm. It was a herd of 8 mares, a colt, and a stallion. They had passed there 2 days ago. He would see them soon, but he needed to smell of sun, moon, stars, and wind before the mustang would accept him. When the sun went down and the chilly night air came quickly, Bob took the saddlebag and blanket off Warrior. He was cold, but he could not make a fire. The mustangs would smell the smoke in his clothes from miles away. He draped a thick blanket around himself, then took the cotton sack and dried fruit, beef jerky, and nuts from his saddlebag and ate. When he was done, he lay his head on the saddle and was quickly asleep. Warrior grazed in the tall, sweet grasses. As soon as the sun's round shoulders came over the horizon, Bob awoke. He ate, filled his canteen, and saddling Warrior rode away. All day he followed the tracks without hurrying. Near dusk, clouds appeared piled atop each other like mountains made of fear. Lightning flickered from within them until candle flames shivering in the breeze. Bob heard the faint but distant rumbling of thunder. Suddenly, lightning vaulted from cloud to cloud across the curved heavens. his front hoofs, pawing as if trying to knock the white streaks of fire from the night. Bob raced Warrior to a nearby ravine as the sky exploded sheets of light, and there, in the distance, beneath the ghostly light, Bob saw the herd of mustangs. As if sensing their presence, Warrior rose into the air once again, this time not challenge the heavens, but also in greeting. Bob thought he saw the Mustang stallion rise in response as the earth shuddered from the sound of thunder. Then the rain came as hard and stingingly as remorse. Quickly Bob put on his poncho and turning Warrior away from the wind and the rain, waited. The storm would pass soon, or it wouldn't. There was nothing to do but wait. Finally the rain slowed and then stopped. The clouds thinned, and there, high in the sky, the moon appeared as white as grief. Bob slept in the saddle while Warrior grazed on the wet grasses. The sun rose into a clear sky, and Bob was awake immediately. The storm would have washed away the tracks, but they had been going toward the big river. He would go there and wait. By mid-afternoon, he could see the ribbon of river shining in the distance. He stopped, needing only to be close enough to see the horses when they came to drink. Toward evening, he saw a trail of rolling, dusty clouds. In front was the Mustang herd. As it reached water, the stallion slowed and stopped. He looked around, his head raised, nostrils flared, smelling the air. He turned in Bob's direction and sniffed the air again. Bob tensed. Had he come too close too soon? If the stallion smelled anything new, he and the herd would be gone, and Bob would never find them again. The stallion seemed to be looking directly at him. Bob was too far away to be seen, but he did not even blink his eyes, afraid the stallion would hear the sound. Finally, the stallion began drinking, and the other horses followed. Bob let his breath out slowly. He had been accepted. The next morning, he crossed the river and picked up the herd's trail. He moved Warrior slowly without sound, without dust. Soon he saw them grazing. He stopped. The horses did not notice him. After a while, he moved forward, slowly, quietly. The stallion raised his head. Bob stopped. When the stallion went back to grazing, Bob moved forward again. All day, Bob watched the herd, moving only when it moved, but always coming closer. The Mustangs sensed his presence. They thought he was a horse. So did he. The following morning, Bob and Warrior walked into the herd. The stallion eyed them for a moment. Then, as if to test this newcomer, he led the herd off into a gallop. Bob lay flat across Warrior's back and moved with the herd. If anyone had been watching, they would not have noticed a man among the horses. When the herd set out early the next day, it was moving slowly. If the horses had been going faster, it would not have happened. The colt fell to the ground as if she had stepped into a hole and broken her leg. Bob and the horses heard the chilling sound of the rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes didn't always give